Down.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
With that lovely introduction. I know we started a little bit late, so I do want to move a bit fast, but what I always like to do, there's a nice group of people. So my first question, so take a moment about this. My first question to each and every one of you, not why are you here, right? Because every speaker asks that. But you're here because you want to learn more about franchises. My question is, why do you want to learn more about franchises? The reason I ask that, as we go through the presentation, depending on what it is and how you answer, I might tailor the presentation a bit so that I can address whatever it is you're looking for. Does that make sense? So let us begin with the gentleman in the back. I know you were staring at me like, oh my God, I'm the first person to go. So let's start with you, sir. Very quickly. Why do you want to learn more about franchises?
Yeah, I'm just curious about clarifying, like, what is a franchise owner? How do you get into the business? It's a genuine curiosity.
Fantastic. Curiosity is valid, guys, by the way. Love that.
Okay.
All right, sir.
Hi, I'm here because I'd like to learn more about franchises. I know some people that are involved, and I'd just like to learn more about it.
Fantastic. One other thing. Please tell me your name before you begin.
Fred Weaver.
Fred.
Darren.
Darren. You guys can test me at the end to see how many names I remember. Yes, sir. I'm going to skip over you guys. Yes, sir. You. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Pathak.
Pathak?
Yeah. So I just want to learn, about the business like franchise.
Are you from Nepal?
How do you know?
You didn't say that. I have superpowers.
Thank you. Anyway, yeah, because I want to do something else in the future. That's why I'm here to learn about more and more about the franchise.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Welcome. Yes,
Hi,
ma'am.
I'm Deb, and I just am curious want to learn more.
Curiosity is good. Yes, sir.
My name's Matt, and same, open to every opportunity that's out there, and being in business for yourself seems like an interesting way to go.
I love it. And your comment about Matt Holyoke, I feel like I know you already. Good to go. Rob.
Hi,
Yes.
Rob, and I'm not here to learn about franchising.
That works.
I'm here because of the networking and the program here on Mondays. However, even though I'm not here to learn about it, but when I saw the topic and you guys as the speakers, I'm a little bit interested. And what in my head, franchising is like McDonald's, 7-Eleven. It's like those kind of franchises.
Love that.
That's of no interest to me.
Love that.
But there might be other kinds of franchising that actually might be interesting for me. So it would have to be in a different way. It's not like brick and mortar kind of franchises.
How many of you thought franchising was just burgers and fries?
Okay.
Yes. Exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up. So glad. Welcome. Jim.
Hi, Jim Fonz. I'm interested because franchising is a great way to get into an established market. You have structure, you have leads. It saves a lot of time for people to do.
And reduces risk.
And reduces risk.
Fantastic. Love that. Welcome, Jim.
And I'm Mary, and I've kind of looked at franchising. I like it for the independence and the cash flow, and I'm a marketing person, so it just has an allure for me. But like Rob, like no brick and mortar. So I'm just curious, just exploring.
What's out there? Welcome, Mary. Fellow Seven Sister.
Yes, and fellow Verizon. We have more in common.
Yes, we
Oh
do.
dear God. That's an offline conversation.
Yes, okay.
Yes. Yes,
We have more
ma'am.
in common.
Hi, I'm Pamela. I am this is something very new, so I'm just interested in learning more about it and how it works.
Last but not least.
My name is Ernest. I just arrived from the Netherlands, and I started my own company here with my own concept. So I'm interested whether there are already sort of similar concepts. I decided to sit at business meetings, and I tried to do something which was happening here, like the Verizon, make connections within the company, like personally, and also with the goals of the company. So I would like to see whether there are already similar franchise opportunities, or people doing it in the franchise form. And otherwise, if it's becoming a success, I would like to see if I can franchise it also.
3 words. And the former Verizoners will understand why I am no longer at Verizon anymore. They are inspired, introspective, and irreverent. As you guys will see, I like to have a little fun with what I do. We live once. Let's do fabulous work, but let's have a little fun while we do it. Yeah? Taking a step back, you guys have shared a little bit about yourselves with me. I'll do the same. My last gig, I was the Vice President of Public Policy at Verizon, down the street, 14th and I was with the company for almost 10 years. And in 2015, I was doing about 80-hour weeks. I had just had my daughter. I would go home and I would fight with my husband because I had so much stress at work and I needed to take it out on someone, and he was an easy target. My life was out of whack. I was making a lot of money and I was deeply unhappy that entire time. And I said something needs to change. 2015, my boss came to me and said, you know, we've had wave after wave of layoffs, and in this particular one, your position has been eliminated. And by the way, if you any of you gotten laid off, yeah, the HR person strategically places a box of Kleenex between you and them. Well, he knew me better. Before he had even finished the sentence, I got up and I gave him a hug. He and I had a fantastic relationship. And guys, I will never forget that moment. The feeling is so visceral. I will never forget it. It was as though somebody had finally lifted the boulder that had been on my chest for the last 10 years. I could breathe again. April 2015, I then ended up taking, at the time I didn't realize this, I ended up taking what became a 12-month-long sabbatical. It became very clear to me very quickly I was never going back into corporate. So while that's great, the question became, what will I do next? And it was a weird turn of events. One thing led to another, and I found the world of franchises. And by the way, this is something that you guys probably, if you're in transition, are already doing, clarifying what you want. And by the way, money does not count as an answer, because everybody needs money. So let's put that aside. What do you want? And I kept asking myself that question over and over. What do I want from this next phase in my life, in my career? 3 things became very clear to me. 1, this next thing I was going to do had to bring in all of my skill sets to bear. Not just some of them. Not the ones that the employer thought were valuable or cool, but all parts of me. Because when I worked at Verizon, I would leave some parts of myself at home. Some of you might be able to relate to that. Telecom is still very much a white man's world. Even though it's gotten diverse over the years, it still isn't the way we'd like to get to. That was 1. I wanted to bring all of my skill sets to bear. Number 2, my daughter was 16 months. My biggest regret to date is that I have fully missed the first year of my child's life. I'll never get it back. We just have the one daughter. We're not going to have any more children. Thank God for that. Other than a few pictures and home videos, I have nothing else. Right? This thing that I was going to do next, it had to be something where I was able to be there for my child how and when I wanted to. I didn't have that when I was corporate. And then 3rd, some of you might relate to this. It's very simple. I just did not want to work with assholes anymore. That was it. That was it. Think of the amount of emotional energy, life energy that gets sucked out of you every day when you're going into the office and you know who you're going to be working with. You know who you're going to be sitting in that meeting with. Yeah? Yeah. Bunch of you are nodding super vigorously. I get it, guys. So those were the 3 things. Those 3 things I got very clear about. We're going to skip Brian's story and come back for a moment. Here's my arm candy. That's all you need to know. That journey, that 12-month journey led me to the world of franchises. And this is the company that I have. And while it says we do only one thing, I think we said that there, we match franchises with franchise owners, potential franchise owners. And it's a very detailed assessment and matching process we go through that I work with clients on. But the second thing that I do is what we call franchise development. I also work with business owners who have a business that they're thinking they might want to turn into a franchise. It's a very specific process you have to go through in order to do that. Right? I don't sell anything. My husband will tell you I'm the worst salesperson on the planet. What I do is offer an educational resource to you. What are the pitfalls? What are the potential landmines you need to look out for if you're going to look at franchises? How do you reduce your risk? What kind of investment level makes best sense for you? If you don't want to put all of your eggs into one basket, you shouldn't. Those are some of the kinds of things that I go through clients with. Our services are free to the client. So for you to work with me, you never pay me a penny. How do I get paid? When you decide to sign on with the franchise turns around and pays me a fee for bringing you a qualified candidate to them. So my only request to you guys is use me, don't abuse me. Time is the only thing that I have. Okay? Any questions on this slide? Good? This agenda is actually something that has been in revision for a while, and I keep changing it based on the feedback that I get from attendees in this room. And this is what you guys have said to me you want me to talk about. So as you look through the agenda, is there anything else that you have in your mind that is not up there? We're going to go over why business ownership. We'll talk about franchising, why it works, how it works, why has it been so successful. Very importantly, if you are thinking about a franchise, how do you know? How do you know that a franchise is the right option for you? It may be. In many instances, it may not. I call this the perfect fit franchise. There are thousands of franchises out there. Do any of you know how many franchises there are just in the US? Any guesses? Proud number. 3?
3,000.
Ooh, did you pick at my slides?
I just have some recollection of a franchise convention that talked about 3,000 potential opportunities.
Matt is quite close. We have a little over 3,500 franchises today in over 100 different categories. So many of these, not all, many of these franchises are robust and they're good and they're helping people make money. But all of them cannot do it for you. So what are those couple of handfuls of franchises that may be the ones that fit you best, right? We're going to start to talk a little bit about how we do that. The way I have structured my process, the same time that my clients work with me, they also work with my funding concierge, my funding advisor, my arm candy, Brian Sullivan. Okay? And there's a reason why. How many of you are homeowners? When you went out with your broker to look at houses, did you have a sense of how much money you were going to spend? Did you have a sense of how much money you might be able to get as a loan from the bank? Yeah. What's that? Being pre? Yes. Pre-approved, pre-qualified. That's part of the process that Brian's going to walk you through. Again, the point is we want something that you are very comfortable in. You should not be starting a business and then laying awake at night wondering, how am I going to service this large loan? Completely defeats the purpose. That is not what we're doing here. Yeah? He and I work very closely. And he's going to talk about funding your franchise, and we'll talk about next steps. Does that sound good?
Just a little bit more on the types of franchises, what industries that they generally fall into.
We're going to get into that. Absolutely. These are the key categories, but there are subcategories. How many of you have been in this situation? You're at an interview. And they say, we are looking for someone aged 22 to 26, but with 30 years of experience. Would that be you, Jim? Would that be you, Mary? Right? It makes you crazy. But this is the world that we live in now. And my friends, I think somebody mentioned they were in HR. And I think our HR friend would also agree. Ageism is well and alive in the corporate world. And if you think it does not exist, you, my friends, may be hiding your head in the sand. This is the reality of the workplace. I won't go through every single bullet. Did you know that peak incomes are declining? I think intuitively we get a sense that that might be true. Right? There's this thing that's called peak income for men and women. So if you look at your career, these are the ages where if you're a guy or if you're a woman, this is where you hit your max. You're going to make the most money you will ever make in your career. Those ages have dropped. What does that mean? When those peak incomes have dropped, if they went from 45 to 38, you are now making less money for a lot longer over the period of your career. Does that make sense?
When you say less money, you're not actually taking a quantitative reduction in salary, but it's just not increasing at the same rate? Is that what you're saying?
It is not increasing at the same rate. There are a couple of other things, Jim, that are going to be happening. For women in particular, this becomes very true. It is not an accident when you look at the numbers that statistically, typically around the mid to late 30s, women's peak incomes start to go down. There are a lot of women who also leave the corporate workforce. What is the one thing that you might be able to correlate to what is happening to these women personally?
Child. Family.
Right? There are many reasons why, but peak incomes for both men and women have gone down over the years. Right? So the sense of how many of you grew up, I did, where your parents said, don't be a fool, go to school, get your grades, go to a good college, get in with a company, be good, do your work, get promotions, and you're going to retire and they're going to give you a golden watch or some equivalent. Have you guys heard variations of that? Your own family have told you that?
Right.
No longer true. Does job security exist? If you've gotten laid off, does job security exist?
No.
Yeah.
Hell no. There's no job security. This is the insecurity of job security, right? So as you get clear on what your next steps look like, ask yourself the hard questions. Don't keep your head buried in the sand. I had a conversation earlier this morning with the wise old gentleman sitting by the door. And he said, you know, in this age, each of us, we are our own company. I paraphrased on what you said. Each of us are our own company. Why? We need to do our own branding. We need to do our own marketing. We need to be the ones responsible for the trajectory of our development in our career, not some company. Yeah? 100%. The insecurity of job security. On the flip side, yes, sir.
Yeah. I was clarifying the peak income. Well, the number for men was 48. Is that it dropped 48%?
No, age 48.
Oh, okay.
So this is, sorry, I should add that. 48 years. Peak income for women is 39 years.
Gotcha.
Women used to be 43, 44. Men used to be 52, 53. They've dropped.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
So the perceived security of job security versus, oh my God, you're starting a business? What? Are you mad? Isn't that risky? Aren't you going to lose your money? How many of you have heard that? Aha. That's you.
Thank you.
These are the three things. And these are particularly true with a franchise. When you begin your own business, can anybody lay you off from it? Ever? Ernest, I'm so sorry. I know you started your business 3 years ago, but man, you know, the economy's been tough. We're going to have to lay you off. Can anybody do that to you? This is your business. Only the voice in his head. I love that. I love that. Yes. Yes, I love that. You can grow the business at the pace that you want. How many of you think in your workplaces, you went in, you started working, and you said, listen to your boss, you know, Jim, I have my parents coming into town, they're gonna be here for a month or so. I'm just gonna, take it a little bit easy, leave a little earlier, come in a little bit later. I know you're gonna be cool with that. No. But with your own business, it is your baby. Depending on what is happening in your life, you can take your foot off the pedal if you need to. Right? We talk about this fabled life-work flexibility, this unicorn that none of us have ever seen. Well, you might be able to get one step closer to that with a business of your own. The longer you own your business, the safer it becomes. The longer you are in your job, does it become safer? No. Why?
It's
more expensive.
You become more, yeah.
You become more expensive.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You become obsolete. I don't need to keep you
And
around.
you become more lazy.
In many instances.
Around work.
In many instances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the company
Right.
think about hiring new.
So again, coupled with ageism in the workplace, why am I going to keep you, Matt, with your expensive salary and all of your benefits and the bonuses that I give you every year when I can hire somebody who's half your age? Why do I need to keep you? Everybody says that, right? This is the kind of crazy making thing that happens. So the longer you own your business, the longer you own your business, the stronger you get in it. No one takes that away from you. Let's talk about the pros and cons of a franchise. Because it's not a silver bullet. There are disadvantages to franchising as there are to anything else. How many of you have ever heard the term business in a box? Rob, what does it mean?
I have no idea, but I assume that. Well, when I've heard it, I've seen it in articles in the context. It's some of the things that some of the people mentioned here is you've got, you mentioned like you've got customers or clients that are provided to you, maybe not quite on a platter, but something close to it, because you've got a brand. There's a brand name that you're taking on, so you don't have to spend. I mean, the brand name I think is perhaps the hardest thing for a company to develop. So if you've already got that, that's the box that you're getting, and then that brings with it customers, processes, supply chains. If you have tangible objects, that's all sort of queued up for you,
Part of the box.
and probably some some marketing tools and things like that too.
Fantastic. Rob is spot on. A business in a box is a franchise, and the business in the box, the term comes from the fact that, so a lot of clients will say to me when they begin working with me, I said, I don't think I want a franchise that provides a product or a franchise that provides a service. And I say, it doesn't matter. You want to get in with a franchise that has what? A robust system. You, my friends, are going to be paying for the systems. Make no mistake. So you know the royalties that you may have heard about? The monthly payments you will make to your parent company if you become a franchisee? The royalties go towards paying for the systems and the processes that your franchisor, the franchisor, we use the term alternately, that they provide you, the franchisee. That is the box. You are, so let me put it to you a slightly different way. You decide today you are going to start an IT company, Jim. You've been in telecom, you've done this, you know this in the back of your hand, you're going to start a company from scratch. And he starts Jim's IT LLC. I knew you were thinking that. You go to the Virginia State Corporation Commission, you pay when I did it, it was $125, you pay the money, boom, bam, boom, you're a business. How hard was it? Starting a business is super easy. Guess what is hard? Staying in business. Jim has started with nothing. Jim is the CEO, and Jim is the janitor, and Jim is everybody else in between for his company. What happens with a franchise? So Jim says, I have a background in IT, Fazun. I think that's what I'd like to do, IT franchises. So he starts with an IT franchise as a franchisee. Coming in, is he starting from scratch? He has the background. He also has the backup support of the company. If he has gone in with a robust company, this is a company that is providing him with the back-end administrative support functions that he is going to need to grow the company. In addition, the things that Rob mentioned, how do you acquire clients? How do you do local marketing? We're going to start to provide leads to you. Is every lead going to be super fantastic? No. You'll get lots of crappy leads, but you are getting leads. He's getting systems and processes just by virtue of joining an already established brand or system. And yes, by the way, Rob, the brand is a key thing. But the brand can also be a two-edged sword. Because the franchisor's problems become yours. A couple summers ago, how many of you heard, it was all over the news, when we found out that the Subway footlong, gas in horror, was no longer a foot long. It was actually not a foot long, it was like 10 inches. And people freaked out. Do you guys remember that? Now, you and I laugh. You and I laugh, but the company took a really large hit. So you, the franchisee of Subway, you might have been doing everything right.
What?
But guess what? You just got splashed with the same brush. So reputation, the brand name, can be a two-edged sword. Keep that in mind. System. System, every day of the week. That is what you're going to be doing. Marketing, sales, op, customer retention, billing, leasing, whatever your business requires, that is the support that you're going to be getting from your franchisor. The other reason why you're paying a royalty, you guys have not asked me this. By the way, people, why do you look so serious and so scared? Okay, here's the rule. I'm changing the rules on you. You guys, for every 3 sentences that I say, I need to hear 1 sentence back. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Even if it's a joke.
I love it.
Okay? No, seriously, guys.
I love it.
Seriously.
Perfect.
Okay? Yeah. Interact with me. I'm trying to read your faces. I know I'm very magical and I have superpowers. I can't read faces. Ask me, interact with me, please. Okay? The other reason why you have to give a royalty, you are exchanging your money for a quicker startup.
Right.
Do you guys know, on average, how many years does it take for a business started from scratch, Jim's IT LLC? How many years is it going to take for him to turn a profit?
3 to 5.
5.
3 to 5.
3 to 5.
Give or take, depending on
5.
the industry and the location of some of the
Industry and
factors.
location, blah, 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 blah. 7 years. 7 years. Right? I like it. It's funky. I like it. 7 years. So the question becomes, are you financially wealthy enough that you can afford 7 years before you turn a profit? I know I didn't have that luxury, right? So you get a quicker startup. Training. Over the life of your tenure, it's a 10-year contract you'll sign with your franchisor. Over the life of the 10 years, you are constantly going to be getting training from your company. Keep up with the trends. Keep up with your competition. Oh, you can't do marketing this way anymore. Things have changed. Whatever. Right? That is something that you're going to be getting as part of the royalties that you're giving. I'll skip this. What's FTC? Federal Trade Commission. Why do you care if franchising is regulated by the FTC? Protection, how?
Because they won't let franchisors do things that don't meet the rules and regulations that they've established. So it's a protection from shady dealings.
How many of you are scared blankless that you might lose the shirt on your back if you invested in a franchise? How many? How many? Scared, somewhat. I have a couple ladies, people here who are like, damn no, I'm Wonder Woman, I'm not scared of that. That's cool too. Typically for the average person, you are investing a large amount of money. If you have a home, this is probably going to be the second largest financial investment you'll ever make. You want to know that somebody out there is protecting your back. Just like the financing, the credit card financial industry, franchising is a highly regulated industry. As part of being regulated by the FTC, one of the things that you're going to be doing, if you start working with me, there will come a part in the process where you will review what is known as an FDD. Does anybody know what that stands for?
No.
No, you're not allowed to answer. I'll tell you what. it's
Financial disclosure or something.
Franchise disclosure document.
Franchise.
Yes. The franchise disclosure document is typically 200 pages long. And if you're an insomniac, this is a really great thing for you to start reading when you go to bed. The FDD is comprised of 23 sections. And it gives you a deep dive into the skeletons of the business. Who's the management? How much money do they have? Have they ever declared bankruptcy? For my clients, there are 2 items that are of most important, greatest importance. Item 7, which is your all-in investment amount. Do you guys want to know how much money you're going to invest in a business? Of course. And then conversely, do you guys want to know how much money you're going to be making from that business?
Yes.
Would that be important to you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely 100%. So write down item 7 and item 19. Item 19 is your earnings claim. It is fully laid out for you in the FDD. Here's the other thing that you're going to get. Typically at the end of the FDD is a comprehensive list, name, email, address, phone number sometimes, of every person, past and present, who has ever bought into that system. The level of transparency in this industry is the reason, one of the biggest reasons why I joined. I don't do shady. I don't like it when people do shady with me. I wanted to be able to do work for clients who were in the same position that I was in a couple of years ago. Yes, sir.
Just for clarification, everybody's bought in. You mean bought in to the franchising company or a list of everyone who's franchised with them?
A list of everyone who has ever been a franchisee with them.
Wow. So for
Past
some
and
of
present.
these, that would be a huge, huge list.
It's a huge list. It tells you the franchisee left the system,
Okay.
right? So as part of the due diligence that you will do with me, I will say, Jim, you want to make sure that when you get on your call with the brand, you're going to ask them, hey, ABC franchise, as I reviewed your FDD, out of the 200 franchisees that you have, I saw that 20 had left your system. Why?
You already know the answer to the question, because you already spoke to all of them.
Not necessarily. I work with several hundred brands. It's not possible. Now,
And was it
But if I got
earnings?
to the point where I'm going to make a phone call, somebody seriously ask you questions about a franchise that someone has to offer, I'm going to talk to the dissatisfied customers.
you are going to
Or the
talk
people that
to
are gone,
both.
people that retired, whatever, for whatever reason it is that they left.
So here's what typically every brand will ever do, and you can't fault them. They will say, Matt, of the comprehensive list in the FDD that we gave you, here's a list of 20 people that we would like you to begin talking to. By the way, this part of the process is called validation. You're validating what you've heard from me and corporate, that in fact, what they're saying is actually true. So are they going to give you people who are failing? They're going to give you top performers, and that's great. But here's what you're going to do. This is what every client of mine does. You're going to go back and say, hey, Fazun, thank you, this is great. By the way, I have a couple specific criteria. I just did this with a client of mine. He's signing his franchise agreement this Friday. He's getting ready to be what's known as an area developer. So he's buying out all of Northern California and Las Vegas for a brand. In essence, he's becoming the franchisor. So instead of running one unit, he's in charge of recruiting unit franchisees. Do you understand? As he went through the process, I said, look, Ali, here's what you need to do. Corporate is going to give you a list of 20. These are all top performers. Great, fabulous, you talk to all of them. In addition, you say, I'd like to speak with at least 3 franchisees who've been in the business 1 year or less. I'd like to speak with a franchisee who's been in the business 5 to 10 years. You see where I'm going with this? I'd like to speak to franchisors who are frankly struggling in your system. If they say no to you, you give me a call. That's how this works. Get that? It's full transparency. You cannot invest in anything that you don't know the bones and skeletons of it. This is not how this works. Does that help answer your question, Matt?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I would have done. Because if you gave me the list of the top 20, then I'd be asking them, who else should I talk to? This is who they told me
100%.
to speak to. Now you tell me
100%.
who I should go and speak to. This
Absolutely.
is my situation. Do you know anybody that's in my situation? Tell me where to go.
Exactly.
And then go talk to them. So then when I come back to corporate and I start asking you questions, right? I already know the answers. So now I want to know, I'm going to ask you a question. It's just like my lawyer pal back here, right? I'm not going to ask you a question which I don't already know the answer, right? I just want you to corroborate what it is that I think I already
That's
know.
right. This is being smart. Okay. Again, there's a person in the room who I'm going to call on in just a minute. He's going through his due diligence right now. If you don't do the due diligence that is required of you, the outcome is not going to be good. There are many things that I can do for you as your coach, many things, and I will do them. What's the one thing that I cannot do for you?
Make those phone calls.
Due diligence. And the phone calls, the validation, this is the heart of your research process. Heart. This is when you know what is what. How much money are you really making? How long did it take for you to get to break even? From break even, when did you get profitable? So, the franchisor is telling me I need about $150,000 to start. In your first 12 months of business, were there any unexpected, unwanted surprises that you had? You're not going to get these in the FTD. You're going to get a lot of good stuff, but these come from the calls with the franchisees.
And the earnings can be very different among the franchisees depending on the level of effort that they put in.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So that's a big variable. Does the FDD provide like low to high earnings in different areas and then?
The FDDs that I have seen, and different companies, they parse it out differently. They'll have the top third quartile,
Okay.
right? They might do it in quarters. It really depends. You get the
You
whole.
can see if you do nothing for little, this, you'll probably make this much. and
That's right.
it can happen.
That's right.
Okay.
You get the whole data set, but then the slicing and the splicing, that happens with the validation calls, right? Where you're really getting the granular details, right? Okay, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. The first one sounds pretty obvious, right? Follow the playbook to be successful. Here's the thing, people. If any of you feel in your heart of hearts, you are a Mark Zuckerberg. You're going to create a new company, create a whole new marketplace. My friends, a franchise is not for you. You must follow the playbook to be successful. It is that simple. And you pay for it, right? Every month. With your royalties, you're paying for it. Why would you not use it? Some people think that's a disadvantage. It may be if you're a Mark Zuckerberg. Keep that in mind. Not every brand, some brands will require an annual sales goal. And if you don't meet it, it'll lay out in the FDD what are the remediation steps. They'll work with you, they'll do this, they'll do that. If nothing works out, they might then say, Mary, we've tried, it may be best if we part ways. They'll walk you through that process. Getting into it, you want to know, do you have a sales goal? What does it look like? By when do I have to hit certain milestones? Many people feel that's a disadvantage. I feel like I have another boss again. Okay. Then a franchise isn't for you. Right? Some folks will say, Fazun, this is all fantastic, but I don't want to pay franchise fees and royalties. Okay, no problem, then a franchise is not for you. Does anybody know what a franchise fee is? Yes? No?
That'd be for using
Using
programs
their-
that they have.
Right.
Your franchise fee is a one-time fee that you pay when you sign the agreement to become a franchisee. This gives you the rights to use the brand, to use the logo, to use the trademarks, depending on what the business is. One time, royalties, or the life of your contract. Right? Again, in exchange for a quicker startup. You must be very clear why it is you're getting into a franchise. Who knows what protected territories mean? Yes, sir.
It's places where you cannot, if your business is in spot A, you cannot expand to B because someone else already has that territory.
That's right.
And vice
Why is that a good thing?
And vice versa, and they can't step on you either.
Well, is that a good thing? Doesn't that limit you?
Protects you too.
It does? In what way?
It's the double-edged sword.
Competition.
You have to look at the territory too, and the
Yeah.
product that you have.
Yeah. Many people don't like it. Listen, it limits me. I get that it means Ernest can come and play in my sandbox. I get that, but I want to play in his.
You can
No.
buy this franchise.
You could buy it. Now,
Franchise more.
almost every single franchise, with a handful, with a few select, will have protected territories. There are some brands they don't. You can work anywhere in the country. It's not good. It's not bad. It's a different model. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. This is if you're driving around and you're looking for fried chicken, why is there always a Kentucky Fried Chicken and a Popeyes right next door, right across the street from each other? Aren't they competing with each other?
Who can answer that question? Yes, ma'am. Why? Why are they side by side?
Because they're all part of Yum Brands.
They're the same bread?
No, I need to have an offline conversation with you.
Pizza Hut too.
Pizza Hut
So you
too.
get,
Oh,
because you'll get, right, because you'll get Kentucky Fried Chicken, Popeyes, and Pizza Hut all sitting next to each other because they're all part of the same
Now,
brand.
this is part of the same mother brand. So Matt is right. But there are also many other examples of why two different yogurt places may be side by side.
But they're competing at the same time.
They're competing with each other. In a lot of instances, this happens because they're trying to drive traffic to that particular location. In a weird way, psychologically, when you see two competing brands providing the same product, it does this thing in our heads where we think, wow, I guess fried chicken must be the thing to eat these days. I'm saying it in a bit of a facetious way, but do you get what I'm trying to say? This is why it happens. That's an excellent question, by the way. Yes. Yes, sir.
How does it work with pricing? Because if you can compete with me and you lower your price, is it always fixed pricing?
So I'm going to say this right now. I don't like food brands. Me, I don't. Right? I don't. I think the margins are razor sharp. I think when you start competing on price, you've already decapitated yourself because you're only going to go down to the bottom. It's a war to the bottom.
Yeah.
It's basically a race of can I get there before you can get there. I don't know. A lot of it depends on the brands that are involved because remember, if it's a franchise, the decision to decrease your prices, you can't make them.
Yeah. Okay.
Your mothership has got to say,
I see.
Ernest, this is
Yeah.
the price,
Yeah.
and then you can do it. Those questions. Yes, ma'am.
It's the same thing as gas stations. I mean, it's the same concept. There's one on every corner, and they, you go some places. There's 4 gas stations on each on a corner, and the prices are pretty close. Different brands, but same idea. It's competition.
But it's more from a service perspective. So as an IT consultant, I would be an IT consultant as well. We're competing in the same area for the same contract, and in the end we're both equally qualified. But you lower your price, and then what's happening? So is that possible?
Let me, before I get on to the next slide, you guys raise a very good point. Let me ask you this. Many times, clients of mine say, Fazun, I really love the hair care space. Supercuts. I'm looking at you, Matt.
I've got my own hair for the last 20 years.
Clearly, I would not be showing you that brand. A lot of people will say, well, I love hair care, but my goodness, supercuts, great clips, sport clips, right? There's 100 out there. It's just too crowded. I don't think I'll be able to do that. I don't think I'll be able to make any money. So take a step back. Here's the question I want you guys to ask. Do you really want to go in with a brand that has zero competition? If it existed? If it existed, it doesn't exist, but let's say it did. Do you want to do that?
No, it's no market.
Maybe. If you don't have, what is competition? It's a lucrative space, people are jumping in. Yeah? If there is no competition, how lucrative is that space? What is the potential? It could, right? It's a case by case. But I want you guys to start separating out how competitive that space is, how crowded that space is, relative to how much money you can make, relative to the return. The two may not be as intimately intertwined as you guys might be thinking. Make sense?
But majority of people, they follow the brand.
What's that?
You just said, oh, sorry.
Sorry.
You
The
said
majority of people, they want to go for the brand.
they want to go for the brand.
Yes.
And that's fine. But again, I was speaking with Ron earlier. One of the reasons you don't want to buy a franchise is you start working with me and you say, Fazun, I just want you to give me brands that everybody knows. Bad. That's all the way to begin. It may be one part of your equation, it cannot be the defining thing. You can't start with me and say, Fazun, give me brands that make $1 bazillion. Bad. We'll get into why. There are multiple things you need to look at. It's a decision that comes from the left side of your brain as well as the right side. How much money does it make? How successful are the franchisees? Left side, right side. Is this a business that fits the lifestyle that I want to create? I have an aging parent. I have a spouse who has some sort of something. I have children who I want to spend more time with. Does this business fit the lifestyle that I want to create? Left side, right side. There are many things that go into it, not one. Right? Yes?
What did you say about something is not as intertwined as you think it is?
Why did I say that?
Yeah, rewind. You said something about something being intertwined. It's not what you think it is. Can you repeat that? Do you remember what you said?
Just because a franchise happens to be in a space that seems very crowded to you, there are lots of brands, that is not any reason for you to think that that brand or that particular company is not going to make you money. Don't confuse the relative competition in the space with the relative ROI on that brand. Don't confuse the two. They may be related in some instances, in most instances they are not. Franchising is a little funny. As you get into it with me, you'll find things that seem counterintuitive are actually true.
Thank you.
Why franchise? Not my words. These are the words of different clients. These are the things they said they wanted when they came to me. You may identify with one or a few of these. What is a franchise about, guys? Is it about a product or a service? Both? Is it about a product or a service? What is it about?
The name.
System. At least two people were paying attention. All right, it's about a system, right? It's a proven systematic approach to starting and staying in business for the long haul. How many businesses get started every year and die out in the next 12 to 18 months? Starting in business. These are just some of the key aspects of the business model of very specific franchises that you will be looking at if you work with me. This is what we go through. Do they know what the hell they're doing? Experience. How simple is the business model? If they can't explain it to you, if I can't explain it to you, it has to be simple. Support. You shouldn't just get training one time at the beginning of 10 years and boom, you're done. No. It is support that you should get from your brand through the life of your agreement with them. Name recognition, we talked about this. Double-edged sword. There may be reasons why you want to go with a brand that may not be super well known. It doesn't mean that they're bad. Everybody knows Meineke. Everybody knows Jiffy Lube. Has everybody heard of Kaplan Learning Center?
Yes.
Has everybody heard about the Tutor Doctor? No. It's a fantastic brand. It may not be the reason why you say no to something. Systems, sales, marketing, ops. We talked about this, right? How many of you have heard about entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey? Yeah. You're in it. Yeah, sure, you might be able to talk to your spouse about it, but they're not running the business. In a franchise, you have a system of other franchisees. Who better than to commiserate with? To say, hey, Mary, I'm running up against this issue here in Virginia. You know, you're in Colorado. I know that you've done blah, blah, blah. Can you share with me what were some of the things that you did, because I'm really running up against such and such. This becomes your extended team.
Are other franchises US based or international?
All my franchises?
Yeah.
Most of my franchises are US based. I have a handful who are also around the world and expanding. Okay, Rob. Franchising is not all about burgers and fries. It can be. Some of the most successful franchises in the world are burgers and fries. But if you are not a burger and fry kind of gal or guy, I'm not. There are a bunch of other industries. By the way, I have only listed the 5 major categories. There are hundreds of subcategories under each. Self-explanatory, automotive. Jukilu, Meineke, Mako, right? There's a bunch of others. Retail. These are businesses that you would put in a retail mall or in a retail space. You're typically selling products, not so much services. Can anybody give me an example of a business services franchise?
H&R Block.
Tax services. What else? Businesses that provide IT services, marketing services. Name it, it exists. FedEx, Kinko's, UPS, store. Yeah. What's an example of a home or personal service?
Any of the maid services?
Yes. How many of you would say
Lawn services.
lawn services? How many of you, raise your hand if this is you right now, do not be ashamed, admit it. How many of you think the maid cleaning space is super crowded?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
See, now you're all like, oh my God, based on what she just said, should I raise my hand or not?
No, it's just that you see quite a bit, but you don't know how saturated the market is because I haven't done any research.
Here's a news flash, folks. So when you go driving down your block tomorrow, in my block when I drive down, I see happy maids, dancing maids, blah, 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 right? All of these different companies. How many of them do you think are franchises? So here's where franchising happens, folks. Franchising is started in industries where there's a lot of consolidation to be made. Who knows what consolidation is? It's a lot of mom and pops, okay? Very fragmented. Lots of mom and pops. It's a lot of Jim's IT and Mary's marketing and Fazun's plumbing. And then the big IT, marketing, plumbing, big guns come in with a lot of VC, sometimes a lot of private equity capital. They come in, they put systems and processes, they standardize, and they take off. And the mom and pops simply cannot compete with the power of a franchise. So while you might see a lot of maid cleaning services, you have to understand the percentage that are franchised versus the ones that are not. Silly example, McDonald's. How many of you have kids? Okay. When mine's going to be 6. Yours might be older. Get in the car, and she's cranky, and she says, I want some fries. I want to go to McDonald's. I want the stupid little toy that they give you in the little boxes. Okay. Do I know the quality of the food that she's going to get?
Yes.
Do I think it's fabulous?
No.
I still take her. Why do I take her?
Because it'll make her happy.
That too.
Which will then.
But it meets a certain criteria.
I know what to expect.
Yes.
Do not underestimate the psychology of human beings.
It's
We
minimally
like to
acceptable.
know it's minimally acceptable, right? But it still passes the
Acceptable
school.
is a key word in that phrase. I mean, it's not just the minimum part. Yeah.
The FDA still approves it as food, so you know. Right? But my point is, whether your McDonald's is in Washington D.C. or in the potato fields in Idaho or in the San Francisco Bay Area, you know what to expect. Why? Why? Why do you know what to expect?
The system.
It may be a bad example, but I want you to understand the power of the system. Okay. Over 3,500 different franchises in more than 100 different industries. So if you were looking to start a franchise today, here are some of the things that you would have to be aware of. And as a person from the outside looking into this industry, there's really no way for you to do that. Not every franchise is available in your market. Some of my brands have been so successful that I cannot show any client that particular brand in the DMV.
Okay.
There's one brand, they sell winter treatments. They have only one location left in Virginia. One. They've been around for over 30 years. One of the most fabulous brands. I love this brand. Franchises are profitable, they're happy, they have systems. Right? So not all may be available in your market. Licensed to sell, what does that mean? Yes?
Didn't tell us what it is. Is it blinds or us?
Not data.
You can't tell us?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope. But good try though. Licensed to sell. There are businesses that are in-home, non-medical senior care. In order for you to run that business, you need a license. Every state has a certain quota of licenses, and when the quota is reached, you are SOL, baby.
For
So
the
if
year? Sorry, for the year or throughout the life?
Well, they will tell you.
Oh, okay.
So until a license, so let's say Ernest buys up the last license, until he decides to give them back, he closes his business out, or somebody else who has the license,
Okay.
that's when it becomes available again. So you don't really know, right? And if you've started researching into a brand and you're really like, oh my God, this is the one for me, you have just wasted all this time for a brand that you in fact cannot open from where you are.
So we should have probably 5 or 6 brands in mind.
More than one. Good track record. Goes without saying, right? You'll be amazed at the number of businesses I see these days that are operating, calling themselves franchises. There's a lot of stuff happening at the FTC that we don't see. A lot of people losing their money. Reputable systems. You want to get in with a reputable brand. None of you asked me this already. Are you all sitting on piles and piles of money, and this is not an issue for you?
No, that's what Brian's here.
What's that?
That's what Brian's here.
That's what Brian's here. Yes, that's why Brian's here. A lot of people will say, does it not cost me $1 million to start a business? And the answer is, it might. If you want to start a McDonald's or a Burger King, you're looking at a little north of $800,000. And you get in probably some less than desirable location because the best markets have already been taken. Right? You see how this works now? Yeah. Does anybody know what is this middle category, 100 to 250,000? What kinds of businesses might these be?
Professional services? Maybe hair care.
Maybe hair care. Any other ideas? What could those be?
Gyms. Oh, it could be gyms.
As you move from here to here, these are, before you all get excited and say, Fazun, I want one of these. These are what we call side businesses. They will not allow you to create a 6-figure income. Vending machines,
Okay, yeah. That's true.
50 to 100,000. These are examples of what we call home-based franchises. Some of you mentioned you didn't want a location. Home-based. You can start it in your home. You don't need a location.
It's online.
Office-based. In many instances. 250 to 500,000. What category is that typically? It's the one that most everybody knows about. Food.
Food.
Restaurants.
Coffee shops.
Coffee shops. Right? Anytime you, here's the way to think about it. Anytime you require a space or a location, what goes up?
The price.
Your investment. What's that last category?
McDonald's, Burger King.
Chick-fil-A.
High, well-known franchises.
It's actually another category. They are everywhere, all around us. Every
Hotels?
single corner. Hotels. Hotels. I've lowballed it a little bit. It's typically more than $1 million, but yeah, hotels.
That average investment range, does that include the royalty fee plus the?
Great question. No, your average investment range is your the money you need to open one location of the business, it also includes X months of what's known as working capital. So you need to have on hand $20,000 if something comes up in the first 12 months. That's called working capital. And the amount of working capital varies with the brands that you're talking to.
So this is 2010, will it be?
What's that?
This is December 2010, the source, so.
Yeah,
would that-
these are
they
2010
change
data. Not a whole lot.
Okay.
Not a whole lot. The numbers may have gone up 1-2 points, but not a whole lot. This is very representative. I'm going to really fast forward this. Recession-resistant businesses. Anybody heard about that? What does it mean? Mary?
When when the economy starts to go down, people start to get laid off, the services are still needed. So the business still.
That's a new twist. Yes and no.
Daycare, okay.
These are businesses, whether the economy is going up or the economy is going down, you are continuing to make money. In fact, there is one category that makes more money when we are in a recession. What do you think that is?
Okay.
Good one though.
Healthcare.
Let me give you a clue.
Automotive.
If you are looking for a job, you may use them.
Employment agents?
Yes, staffing agencies. You see how that happens, right? Right? Paradoxical.
Yeah.
But that's what happens. One industry where this happens. But all of these are examples of categories here in the DMV that I've placed clients into, and they're recession resistant. And if you would like a copy of the slides, you can email me. No need to take pictures. I will send the whole thing. One of my most favorite, hair care. Whether you're a boy, girl, man, woman, unless of course you're Matt or my husband who's bald, then it doesn't matter. This is growing. Very, very, very lucrative. Recession resistant. Who's heard of semi-absentee?
No.
A couple of people are nodding. The nodders, tell me what a semi-absentee is.
It's not passive income, but it doesn't require your spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day at yourself working at it.
Very important distinction Rob makes. It is not passive income. You don't just sit and say, now it's making money. No. You still have to do some work, but guess what? You don't have to be in it 24/7. What do? You hire a manager who takes over running the business. Great example of semi-absentee businesses. So if some of you are like, nah, I want to keep my day job, you can, but you can also start a business on the side and hire a manager to run it. If you are serious about looking for a franchise, here are the 3 things you want your franchise to be able to do. These are the steps. We use a 4-step process. The first starts with a very simple question. Mary, I know you worked at Verizon. I feel for you, my friend. My heart goes out to you. But that's about the only thing I know about you. Who are you? What makes your eyes sparkle? 8 in the morning. Conversely, what are those things that you would rather have your tooth pulled out with than do those things? When I ask Mary these questions, I start to get a better understanding of who she is. Beyond her LinkedIn profile, beyond her resume. That person I know. I want to know the person who's underneath that. Because when you give me really, really detailed information on who you are, why do you want a franchise? Why now? When you tell me your reasons why, you are equipping me to better find you that business for you. Because there's many out there, right? For you to be able to start to narrow down. So the first step is we begin with a consultation where I start to get a deeper understanding of who you are. And if franchising makes sense for you, it might not. The second thing that we will do is, I will create what's known as your business model. Your business model is, think of it as you and I, we have a blank piece of paper, that's our canvas, and we're painting a picture together of what your ideal perfect fit business looks like. What do you want from the business? We put all the details down. Once we have that, I do what's known as a territory check. Remember I said many brands are sold out? Depending on where you want to be, I do a territory check of several brands that I will have selected, typically 3, and I will introduce you to the leadership of these brands. That kicks off your search process. Every week, you will have at least 3 calls with 3 brands. The 4th call you will have is going to be with me. Anywhere between 15 minutes to 30 minutes. I know what you've done. Are you doing what you should be doing? Are you lollygagging? If you lollygag, you will never find a franchise. And we should end the process. Whatever it is, we go through that every single week, yeah? You go through the process, you do the validation calls, this is the heart of the process. My clients work with me anywhere between 45 to 60 days. Some a little bit less, some a little bit more, but that's the average. You get towards the end of the process, the franchise that you really like, and hopefully they really like you, they will invite you out to visit them in what's called a discovery day to their corporate headquarters. This is the last step of the process. They want to meet you. They've been talking to you for weeks. Now they want to meet you. If both sides like each other, they like what they see, they will present you with an award. They will award a territory to you. A lot of times people think, if I have the money, I can buy a franchise. Not true. With crappy brands, yes, it's true. But for brands where you can be with them for the long haul, franchises will award you a territory. It's a selection process. Very much like a job interview. You get the franchise agreement in hand. At that point, I'll say time out. You need to get interviewed by a franchise attorney. I'm not one. I work with some of the best in the country. I will introduce you to them. You want to make sure you know what you're signing up for, essentially. Once you do, you pay the franchise fee, you sign the agreement, and you have officially become a franchisee. In a nutshell, that's the process. I'm happy to talk offline with each of you about what the details are for each step. Before I turn it over to my Aunt Candy, may I ask Ron, who began working with me. Ron, how long have you been working together now? A month?
About a month, yeah.
1. Do you want to share with folks
Okay,
what kind of a slave driver I have been with you?
Well, for one thing, she makes sure I'm actually serious about this. It was like she came and spoke to me January, February, something like that. And actually, I was mainly here because I was running the camp. I was going to franchise this, not for me. But then she had given a very compelling presentation. So we had some more conversation, and she started me in the process. I'm now checking out 3 different franchises to find out what we like. Well, my wife and I are both working things together. So what do we like about this one? What do we like about that one? So it takes some work, but I'm enjoying the work. I like researching things anyway. So it's like, let's find out about this, find out everything. It'd probably take longer than I should. Was digging into each one, see what I like about them, what I don't like. I'm also checking out the things online. Is there any bad stories about them? So I have a hard time finding those, so it's a good sign. So,
When we built your business model, Ron, do you remember that first conversation where I asked you about the different industry categories? What about that conversation did you find helpful that maybe you had not thought of before?
Probably the most helpful thing was that you were bringing up areas that I would not have considered, and showing me how, these are things you like to do, these are things that are your strengths, and they can be used in this area just as much as in the ones that are obvious.
He hasn't yet fired me. So
I have a question. So when you're looking at your 3, are they very similar franchises in the same line of business, or 3 different business opportunities?
One of them is a franchise that helps businesses cut their costs at no cost to that business.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is to help families who have elderly parents or grandparents, and they can no longer care for them in the home. They need to put them in assisted living or nursing home. So helping them to find the right match
Yes.
for that. Also, at no cost to the family. And the third was is an IT managed services to compete with Jim, who's
It's startup.
Jim IT LLC.
Yeah. Thank you, Ron. It's I will tell you, the biggest thing you can bring to this process is an open mind. Ron was fantastic when we created his business model.
Thank you, Brian.
He literally started, I'd throw a category at him and he'd say, what? Really? That's a franchise? Yes, Ron, that's a franchise, right? Again, there are things that exist out there that you know nothing about. Very lucrative, very profitable, creating intergenerational wealth for a lot of the franchisees. If you are serious about looking at a franchise, you might want to give this process a thought. With that, my arm candy, Ryan Seliver.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, so we.
Good morning, everybody. So again, I'm Brian Seliver with Say National Bank. I would argue for the purposes of what we're all here talking about, what Fazun is presenting, the name of the bank doesn't matter, my bank doesn't matter, just the idea of, I'm a big cheerleader of the idea of no matter what you're doing, if you're doing it with passion and you're really serious about it, it behooves you to build out a team of strategic advisors, whether you write them a check or they get paid by some other means like Fazun described with her role. I'm a big proponent of none of us can specialize in everything, and this is clearly a complex process that takes a lot of expertise. So I'm here as part of Fazun's strategic team. She has filled the same role for me. Clients of mine that come, have a business, they want to franchise it, I make the introduction. So I'm here to go over at a very high level a couple different ways that a bank, I represent Say National, and I'm very proud of the brand, but banks, generally speaking, you're going to find similar pricing, similar services at all the different banks you go to. I'm here to explain just the 60-second pitch in detail of what different sources of capital could possibly be. And then it's up to you guys to come find me if this is something you want to talk about more, in addition to doing your own research online to determine if anything up here could be a possible fit, that's in your comfort zone, and it could provide an avenue so you could feasibly get into a business if this is something you are interested in doing. So, if you want, we can just roll through. You can hit the next one. So, again, very short version just to get the mind going, and then if this applies to you, please feel welcome to ask me about it afterwards. If it doesn't apply to you, you can take a 60-second nap and catch me on the next one. So, the easiest or the simplest of these different financing routes, just a simple personal line of credit or a personal loan. Think of that as you sign an application, provide a few, some tax returns, you fill out a financial statement. The bank agrees and says, because you've proven you have so much money on the balance sheet for your household, and your credit is so good and your debt's so manageable by comparison, you sign this loan agreement, we will give you the money and you agree to pay it back at this rate. Sounds simple, and the reason it's so simple is because it's very hard to qualify for. Depends how much you're looking for, but generally that means you need to have a pretty good stash of cash under your name in order for the bank to provide you pretty much a handshake deal. No additional collateral. The only risk is if you don't pay back, the bank will seek some sort of recourse. Again, it doesn't mean it's easy. You need to have probably been in your shoes and have worked several years at a company or in the corporate world and saved very aggressively to do that. But that's the simplest way to go. I did a $25,000 personal unsecured line of credit for a financial advisor who's done very well for himself. I asked him, what's the purpose of this money? I know that you have plenty of your own. He said, I may have a tax situation this year and I don't really want to have to dig into my own investments. And I was like, must be nice to have a problem like that. But that's not most people. Home equity line of credit becomes much more common for the homeowners in the room. I think it was around half. So if you're not a homeowner, then this, by definition, will not be something that you're looking for, at least right now. But folks who have a home, and it's your primary residence, it's where you live at least most of the year, and you've either been there a while and thus paid down the balance of a mortgage if you got to buy your home, or you get a large bonus every year, every couple of years at work, and you have the chance to pay it down aggressively. If you have what we call equity, I'm sure you know the idea of, say your home is worth $500,000 and you owe $250,000 on your mortgage to bank X, that means we say you have $250,000 of equity, lendable equity, in your primary residence. That means you could go to a bank, certainly City National offers this, and most other banks on the block do as well, a home equity loan, or think a home equity line of credit. You can think of it kind of as a credit card at a much less expensive interest rate, in the single digits instead of the double digits. And the collateral, the reason that you can afford to get it at a much lower rate than your American Express card, which may have a 24% interest rate if you don't pay it off every month, is because you're putting up collateral. You're just like when you get your primary mortgage on your home, you come to the table, you sign a new deed of trust to the bank saying, I promise to pay back on this schedule, this interest rate every month. If I fail to pay, then mi casa is su casa, and everybody will be very unhappy. But the bank, again, because this is about the most affordable means of financing that most people can get, interest rates 4.5% to 7%. And if you have that equity in your home, that example I gave before, you have $250,000 of equity, what, more than half of the franchise category is Fazun listed, less than $250,000. And the bank, we want to know what the money is for, but more importantly than that, as long as it's legal, of course, we want to know you can demonstrate the ability to pay back with your corporate job or your existing business. Just like when you get a mortgage, we'll look at your recent income, we'll look at your current debts, we'll look at your tax situation. If we do a little of our bank calculations and decide that you could easily and feasibly pay back this additional expense, we might approve a home equity line that you can use really at your discretion. It could be to invest in a new business concept, as long as you plan to keep some sort of steady income as you go, because then the bank is like, well, we're not in the house buying and selling business, but make no mistake, the bank doesn't want to repo your stuff for your house. Yeah, nobody would be happy, and you wouldn't be telling people good things about your bank if that's how it went. But it enabled, basically, it's putting that skin in the game that could be a viable way to borrow the money at a relatively affordable rate. And the agreement you're entering into, again, this is where it helps to have a consultant like Fazun, a good accountant, a financial advisor. Those are all people in my circle, because I can advise on the means of financing, but your accountant can tell you whether this is a financially savvy move or if it will lead to tax detriment or a tax benefit. Your financial advisor, hopefully you've been working with for years, can advise you, hey, this seems like you're deviating a bit from our strategy, let's talk about it. Or they may say, yes, this is a good deal. Given what you want to do and what your goals are, this may be the way forward. So for homeowners out there who have paid down their mortgage at least a little bit, that may be something worth looking at. What do we have next? 401k or brokerage account. So two different ways to think about it. There's, for those who have saved and worked in a corporate environment for a number of years, hopefully, you likely have a 401k or a 403b account. In some cases, and I have a Rolodex of wonderful financial advisors I can connect you with that can give really explicit, specific advice, but in many cases, a 401k can be borrowed against. Again, at a fairly affordable rate that may or may not be best for you, and I'm not here advocating for or not for that strategy, but Fazun and I have worked with a few franchise owners that come to mind. They worked as a government contractor. They work in a government agency for years and years and years. Or for Verizon, they have a 401k. They've amassed $500,000 in their 401k. You can often borrow from that to use for other worldly goals of yours. You have to pay yourself back, but at least you're paying yourself back. You're not putting your house on the line. You're not putting other physical collateral besides your own money that is yours. You just have to wait till you're a little older to get it all back. So that's something that...
So this is the only instance the IRS will legally allow you to take money out of your 401k without dinging you or having you pay fees, is if you are using that money to start a business of your own. The only instance this happens.
Yeah, and if, just a small technicality here, because this may affect folks that have left jobs or worked at a company for a long time and left, if you have rolled over your 401k into an IRA, what happens when you do that event, you roll it over from your old company to a Fidelity, to a Vanguard. often that turns off the spigot of being able to borrow off of that account. Many exceptions apply, and we can put you in touch with folks who can advise. But if that suits you, if you are interested in what you're hearing and you think you may have entrepreneurship in your future and you're wondering how will I possibly pay for this? All the numbers Fazun put up there I don't have in my savings account, and you don't own a home, so you're striking out on all those fronts, but you've saved well, you've always hit your company match, so you've got a good chunk of change saved up for when you're old. If you want to tap into that because you just don't want to wait for an opportunity like this, it may be an option for you. What's next? An SBA loan. This gets to really the main part of what I do. Running the personal and business banking team. The business side of it is you have a new business concept, whether it's Jim's IT LLC or the franchise equivalent in that space. Franchises are very attractive to banks because all this market research exists. There's proof of concept. If it's a brand that Fazun is advising you towards considering, it means it's got some bona fides, it has street cred, there's a lot of research out there showing that people can be successful, and you will ultimately be able to hopefully pay back a bank loan. That's what I'm here talking about. An SBA loan, Small Business Administration, it's not the government lending you money, it's the bank, like State National, lending you money, but the SBA agency, the government, guarantees a portion, sometimes up to a large majority. There are certain programs where the SBA will guarantee up to 85% of the amount you borrow for a small business loan. Again, you're not paying the government back, but it says if the worst happens and this doesn't go well, the borrower can't pay back the loan that they took out because things just didn't go their way. The bank is not they're not off the hook. They're not on the hook for all of it. So the SBA helps banks be a little bit more bold and a little bit more eager and open to working with potentially first-time entrepreneurs. And the way to qualify through this, you can see through a lot of bullet points, not nearly as simple or straightforward always as a personal line of credit or a home equity line of credit, where it's a bit more vanilla and clear what you need on the table to do it. A lot of forms, a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of ways, like anything that's heavily regulated, to prove that this is a good idea. But it's something that can be done for people that are brand new in business, don't have a track record, maybe don't have a house, maybe don't have $1 million in their 401k or their investment account. So if you find yourself sitting in one of these chairs saying, I really like the idea of potentially starting a business, I want in, but I'm not a millionaire, I don't own my home free and clear, am I out of luck? The answer might be no, because there are a lot of fabulous banks in the area, City National being one of several that are SBA preferred lenders, where we offer loans based on your credit score being positive, on you having some assets that you can at least put a portion, maybe 10% of the startup costs instead of 100%. And then you have to be sharp and willing to put in the work to come up with a business plan. Everybody's probably heard of the idea of a business plan, but it's really just a playbook where you're projecting out what you think would happen, what your plan, putting on paper what the plans in your mind are, and then an SBA loan is largely going to be based off of your projections as long as they seem reasonable. So that's how banks like City National can help folks get in the game when they're very early on, because that whole thing that everybody says it's hard to get credit until you need credit, and it's hard to get it because you don't have that experience, that whole kind of dance where it's hard to get in when you need it, the SBA loan programs can help folks get in the game sooner or for the first time. And I'll wrap up by just saying, that the whole team I mentioned, that you need a good accountant, you need a good financial advisor. I'm biased, but I think you need a good banker who's willing to be an advocate and go to bat for you. And you need, in this case, if the franchise is what you're looking to do, you need Fazun in your corner, because I don't think any of us can make these big decisions, especially not if I'm thinking of parking $250,000 of my hard-saved money into an idea. I wouldn't want to do it alone. I wouldn't recommend that for any of you, but I'll wrap up by just saying what really gets me going in this career and why I chose to come on board with City National after working at a different bank for 6 years. I really get jacked up at the idea of people not being complacent and not merely being comfortable in the career they're doing if it doesn't sing to them. I don't think too many people wake up when they're little and say, I want to grow up and be a banker, and I definitely wasn't one of those guys. I wanted to play shortstop for the Red Sox, like Tom did. But I've really fallen into this over the last 7 years, and I really admire folks like you guys in this room that came out on Monday morning, put yourselves out there, whatever the situation. I know there are different professional scenarios you find yourself in, but whether you were laid off or whether you just realized I'm not inspired anymore by the work I'm doing, I admire you all for being here and opening up and discussing, at least exploring options. That doesn't mean this is going to be right for nearly all of you, but if it is for one person, that's pretty cool. And then I like that my place is to be an advocate for the people as they navigate this very complex web. Back to you.
So you see, he's not just our family, is he? No, he's talking about, he's I've worked with Brian for years. You know how each of you have had an experience with a bank, whatever bank you bank at, that will remain nameless?
Thanks for not leaving the room when I said I was a banker.
Most of us have not had the most positive experience in our banks. That's a reality. All of that changed for me when I met this guy. He really does take the time to understand his clients and provide them with a service that meets their needs versus his borrowing. Huge.
Quick question for Brian.
Yes.
You're not going to get out of that. Yeah, sure. What's the general life of a loan for financing for franchises?
Sure. Yeah, great question. I would say certainly it depends on how much and the borrower's background. If you're super duper wealthy, it might be short. If you just need to get you started because of tax considerations like that financial advisor I mentioned. Generally speaking, a loan that is not secured by real estate, meaning you don't own a home that you can put up as collateral, is going to generally, it'll be no more than 5 years, so 60 months of equal payments back. There are certain SBA loan programs that can stretch out as long as 10 years. All depends on the scenario, what you're borrowing the money for, how much. The more money you're borrowing, generally the longer term you'll have. It's just common sense. The client and the bank needs to find a scenario that they're comfortably be able to handle, but also, that wouldn't drown you in monthly debt, because it has to be a deal that is mutually beneficial for it to succeed.
And that would also be a consideration in a working capital agreement that you have, a draw account.
Yeah, or for that in particular, quick tangent, I would say for a working capital line of credit, that's something that, like a credit card, like a home equity line of credit, where you think because either there's seasonality to a business that you're looking at, you know that you'll need to borrow a little bit here and there every spring, then every fall, or there's just, you're staffing up, you need to hire more people, it takes you a while to get paid by your customers, whatever that looks like. That's usually a lot more open-ended, like your credit card. It's unusual to need to reapply. You just borrow money off of the overall limit, whatever that's set at, and then you pay it back, and then it's there to borrow again at the same cost. So that a lot of it is driven, like how much you can qualify for a business. Revolving line of credit. A lot of that will depend on how much money you're making, what the use of it will be for. So that's where the talking comes in, because there's no perfect one answer. There's no box that says, well, you're in this industry and you make this much money, so we'll only lend you this much. It's all based on the discussion we have.
If you're worried about your finances, don't put an end to the conversation until you've spoken to one of us. There are many other, obviously we don't have time to go through, there are many other ways in which clients have financed their business. If you would, please fill out the white form. It's pretty self-explanatory. Give it back to me if you'd like me to reach out to you.
Well, thank